is true. All right, let me just record this. I've been derelict in my recording, and people have been asking for it, so I'm just going to make sure.
Tell them to come and join.
All right, there we go. I do, yeah, but some people work, some people
it's a work day,
it's not the best time for some. Well, we've been coasting through chapter 4, and a lot of sage advice about being humble, about doing things for the sake of Shem Shamayim.
Isn't it interesting how there's a lot of advice and yet they don't all agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, which is, you know what, and nobody's wrong.
Right. Although I have to say, as far as Mishnahs go, it seems that Pirkei Avot is one of the ones that is most agreed upon. You know, if you learn some like other masechets, it's things can get dicey sometimes.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
So I believe we were at Mishnah 7.
7. Rabbi Yishmael.
Rabbi Shmuel Beno says, so I'm assuming he's Rabbi Yossi's son. Hachoshech atzmo min hadin, porek mimenu eva vegazel ushvuat shav. One who refrains himself from judgment, rids himself from hostility, from theft, and from false testimony. V'hagas libo b'hora'ah shoter rasha v'gas ruach. But someone whose heart gives judgment is foolish, wicked, v'gas ruach, and arrogant. So I would ask, or my first thought goes to, what's the connection between either refraining from deen, from judgment? Why does that sort of protect you against hostility, theft, and false testimony? And then lehefech, why, if you don't do that, are you susceptible to shoter rasha v'gas ruach? So perhaps when you offer a judgment, someone's going to be hostile to you, because what's a judgment? A judgment is a choice, right? It's either this guy or that guy, or this thought or that thought, and we all know the second that you offer an opinion, a thought, someone's not going to agree with you. You know, it's that's the price of leadership. Is, being a strong leader means making decisions, making statements, and not everyone's going to agree. Certainly, if you look at any leader and throughout history, as amazing as they were, there was someone who opposed them. So perhaps someone who doesn't jump to offer judgment will not face hostility. What about theft, right? Gazelle is theft. How can theft connect?
Innocent until proven guilty? I don't know.
But what's being stolen?
I'm wondering if it also relates to Lashon Hara. Because when you speak Lashon Hara, you rob somebody of their honor, of their name. I was looking up enmity, which is a feeling of being actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. So Lashon Hara could be because you don't like somebody and you say bad things about them.
Okay.
And
What happened? Okay, so what does robbery infer? It infers that somebody is taking something from somebody away. So it could be his good name.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay, it could be his talus. Okay. Now, what happens if the judge makes a mistake? Okay, we talked about. And so what happens is the wrong person gets off. I made a mistake. I didn't really mean to steal it, but I did. Okay. So the judge has to say he did it or he didn't. So that's tough to be a judge, I have to say. So a little farther on, it says you should never do these things alone. I mean, judge alone.
Right. And I mean, perhaps also in terms of theft, the judge, when they offer a judgment, could perhaps steal something from, even if it's true, you can be stealing something from someone. You could be stealing their chelek in olam haba. If it's beit din and, someone is found guilty of, violating the Torah, some of those have fairly harsh, judgments in terms of shem shemaim, in terms of, heavenly judgment. You could be stealing from them. Not just time, if someone goes to jail, even if they're guilty, you're still stealing their liberty or their name. And shvuat shav, false testimony.
If you force William to swear oaths. Vain oaths. In other words, I what do we say? Give me an example of a vain oath. Anybody?
If it's in vain, it's a lie, right? So if you're going to offer a judgment, someone's going to
say they didn't do it.
Exactly. Someone's going to say they didn't do it.
I swear I didn't do it.
I swear I didn't do it. Or I swear I was with Elliot. Hey, Elliot, can you tell the judge that I was with you?
He did it.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you set the stage for perhaps false testimony, right? So we're saying the second that you become a judge, you are allowing these things to happen, even if you're a good judge, even if you're
right,
but you are still allowing these things to happen.
Okay.
And on the flip side, vehagas libo b'hora'ah, shoteh rasha v'gas ruach. And someone whose heart gives judgment is a fool and wicked and gas ruach, arrogant. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Someone who runs to judgment, wants to, right? We said, ezohu or siag la chokhmah shtika, right? We learned that the fence of wisdom is silence, right? So it's actually quite the opposite that we're saying right here, is that not only should you not run to judgment, but you should be quiet, and that's when wisdom has a chance to come through, right? So don't rush to judgment, because if you rush to judgment, then you probably won't have a very good track record. You're going to allow all these things to happen. Yeah.
So then, if you have a judge who is arrogant, this is obsurus.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in court one time, years and years ago. I bought a Nissan Sentra. It was my first car, and the guy at the car dealership French Canadian guy, nice, personable, and we're schmoozing. He asks me what I do. I said, "Oh, I'm a musician and a singer. I have a band. I do weddings." And he goes, "Oh, you do weddings? I just got engaged. Maybe I'll call you." Right? So I'm like, okay, I'm sure this guy's gonna call me. And
right.
lo and behold, he does call me.
Wow.
He does hire me to do his wedding. We did all sorts of, old time rock and roll and this and that. Wonderful party. Comes to the end of the party, and he tells me to call him the next day, and we could settle up the bill the next day, which is not, which is fine, which happens all the time. And then it started. It started with the excuses, and anyways, years go by, and every so often I call, do you think, and it's this excuse, and he's like, "Oh, my wife's not feeling well, and I have to take her to Rachmanis," right? And look, I didn't have accounts receivable, so I was the one that had to do it, and it wasn't what, so literally months would go by, between calls or emails or texts and whatever, and then, you finally wake up and you're like, this guy is never going to pay. And my father happens to be a lawyer, so I call him up. I said, "Look, I have this guy, he's not paying. What do I do?" So he does family law. So he sent me to his friend who does more this type of thing. And so you send him a lawyer's letter, right? And then he sends back a letter saying, "Now I'm not paying you because the lawyer's letter was rude," or whatever. I was like, all right. And I was like, so then we ended up going to small claims court, and it was for about $5,000, which is a decent amount of money. And I had already paid the band because I was in charge, so I paid the band. So not only did I not get paid, I was out a few $1,000s because I paid the band, and had to wait half a year to get a court date, and so by now we're like 2 years after the event. And and he countersues me. He countersued me for way more. He said that we ruined the wedding, that we that we all got drunk and the band. And I was like, I could not believe the chutzpah this guy had. We finally get the court date. Now I'm coming into court with a signed contract, but that's it. And it's my word saying that I did this and this and this, and I should get paid for it, and he signed this deal. And he's coming into court saying, this guy ruined my wedding, and he and his band got drunk, they drank all the booze, the guests didn't have a good time. And it occurred to me, it's really my word against his word. This judge has no idea what happened, right? And we go in, and right away I see that the guy's strategy is to play the French card. And he's Quebecois, and he demanded French music at his wedding, and I didn't provide that. Meanwhile, when he hired me, he was thrilled that I was English, and because he wanted like the Beatles and Elvis and all this, and he didn't want some guy with and he wanted someone that could actually deliver that, well. So I'm sitting there going, what a liar, And the judge starts asking questions, and I see right away this judge is amazing. Just from the questions, he was quiet. He was quiet first, listened to us both present, and then ask questions. And then what happened was quite fascinating. The guy that hired me had brought in a video which shows you the date of this wedding. It was actually VHS still. And he had a VHS, and he brought it in as proof. And this is years ago. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, I've never gotten drunk on a job. Like, I can't believe it. But I was like, who knows what's going to show. And so the judge asks for the TV to come be brought in, and we're just sort of sitting there waiting. And he puts in the VHS, and he presses play, and the first thing to come on is, and I had forgotten even that I had hired this French woman singer because they wanted the first dance to be Celine Dion something, and I didn't feel comfortable singing it. So I said, "Look, I'm gonna." And you see this beautiful girl singing this French song in a beautiful dress, and they're dancing, and it's a beautiful. And the judge goes, "I thought he didn't sing any French music. I thought he didn't provide any French music." Then we found, and then the judge has the clicker, so the judge is going through the tape, and then the next scene is he and his wife and all their guests dancing and having the time of their life as we play. He takes off his suit jacket and is throwing his suit. He's in the middle of the dance floor and it's a party. Anyways, long story short, I ended up winning the case. Obviously, I got paid. Yahel and I went to Israel with the money that we got, and when we were sitting in this beautiful boutique hotel on the shores of Eilat, we had a toast, a l'chaim, to the court case. But I'll never forget the judge. And I was so worried that because he was trying to play the French card and the judge was French Canadian, he was gonna side with his landsman, and I was gonna be, but no. But so really, that's been my only, thankfully, it's been my only dealings with, a civil judge. But I gotta say, this is excellent advice. Don't rush to the judgment. Had that judge rushed to the judgment, who knows what the judgment would have been. But no, he was quiet. He listened. Then he investigated. He took his time. Yeah.
Just to tell you, over the course of the years, because of what we did, we did plumbing, and we always dealt with different clients, and some of them were easy and some of them were not. And I think we've gone to court maybe of the 45 years I was working, maybe I went to court twice. Wow. Most of the time, I just tried to settle.
Sure.
Because basically that's all it is. All it comes down to is how much. Okay.
Right.
But the truth is, when I did go to court, I have to tell you, I found the judge very impartial. I found him, I was never in front of a lady judge. It was only men. No reason, I have no idea. But I found them extremely patient, and they really listened, bless you, and they really listened, to both sides of the story. And they don't render judgment right away. They send it, they do it later. But I have to tell you, I found him, like I said, the judges, I found them extremely capable. And I felt very good. Yes, I wasn't going to always win, but they always made it so that they were very impartial. So the judges today, I have to tell you, and over the course of the years, I became very friendly with one criminal judge who said, I listened to everybody and I listened to everything. And I tried to render the proper decision.
Right.
And never hastily. That's what he said.
Yep.
There you go.
Rabbi Shmuel goes on to say more, Al tihi dan yechidi, don't be a lone judge. She'en dan yechidi ela echad, because there's only one solitary judge, and that's echad, and that's Hashem, right? Or at least that's what I think the Mishnah is saying. Ela echad, just the one. Ve'al tomar kablu da'ati, don't say, take my judgment, right? Accept my judgment. She'en rasha'in velo ata. For they are entitled to that and not you. So let's just talk about this second half of the Mishnah. For they are free, but not you.
It's
What's
interesting.
Free, the judgment?
It's interesting that one isn't capitalized.
Uh-huh.
In my translation, here it is.
Oh, okay.
I have a translation from the Mishnah. Take a look at this book. And they capitalize the one.
Yeah, this one also capitalizes one.
But in Hebrew, there's no capitalization.
No.
So there you go.
Everything is a
literal
capital in Hebrew.
translation.
Let me just read this this opinion. Don't judge alone. Judging is too difficult and sensitive a process to be handled alone. Rashi, Maimonides, and Bartonaro all point out that while an expert judge may indeed judge alone, it is an act of piety not to do so. Bartonaro points out that even if one is an expert and is judging along with non-experts, the expert judge may not insist that they accept the expert view. Once in the role of judge, the individual judge has the right to render an individual decision. So we know, first of all, that in a Jewish court of law, I don't know of a case where you can have one judge. I mean, unless you come to a rabbi with a question, but the second it goes to Beit Din usually are three people. You have what's called the Av Beit Din, the sort of head of the Beit Din, and then you have the two judges. So even the Jewish court system is built in such a way that you don't judge alone. Just like you can't only have, or you shouldn't only have one witness to something. If you want to prove something in a Jewish court of law, it takes at least two witnesses. Rabbi Yonatan Omer, Kol hamekayem et haTorah me'oni, sofo lekayma me'osher. Rabbi Yonatan says, anyone who fulfills the Torah when poor will in the end also fulfill it when rich. V'chol hamevater et haTorah me'osher, but yet whoever does, bittul Torah, wastes Torah when they're wealthy, sofo levatla me'oni, they will in the end also waste it when they're poor, right? So, someone that says, I can't study because I need to make a living, well, they probably won't study even when they have a living and even when they have a few extra shekels and could afford the time. And the opposite also is true. Someone that doesn't make time when they're quote-unquote wealthy probably won't make the time when they're less so. Pretty straightforward Mishnah. Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir, I know, was one of Rabbi Akiva's top students. Hevei mamet be'esek va'asok b'torah. So don't, do a little business. It's not saying don't do business, but asok, right? It's the same, right? It's the same shoresh here. It's the same root word. Va'asok b'torah, but engage yourself with Torah. V'hevei shfal ruach bifnei chol adam. This is at least the second time that we've seen this term shfal ruach. Be humble in the face of all people. Ve'im batalta mina Torah, and if you wasted Torah, yesh lecha b'tilim harbe kenegdach. There are others like you that have also wasted. Ve'im amalta b'Torah, but if you worked, if you toiled with the Torah, yesh lo sachar habelit. But someone, Hashem, again, yesh lo, I think the lo is him, Hashem, has a great reward for you.
If I may, I'm sorry to interject.
No.
I remember once Rabbi Shoham making a sermon, and he had a tendency to repeat himself over and over, but that's another story. But anyway, I remember one time he used to tell us when he went to visit people who were dying in the hospital, okay, and he asked them, okay, what is your biggest regret? Okay, he said the biggest regret was I worked too much, and I didn't spend enough time with my family. So I'm reading here Rabbi Meir, and he's saying work less in business, which I agree up to a point, and occupy yourself with Torah. Okay, but nowhere does it mention family. And I find that a little bit hard today. Okay, I'm sure it was tough then, okay, but the women, I guess, accepted what they had to do. It was their responsibility to raise the kids and look after the house. But it seems things have changed, but I think attitudes have changed. I would think that I would have put in here, I'd spend more time with family and study Torah, as opposed to just Torah. And be humble before all men. Well, I could understand that, If you're studying Torah a lot, you think you're smart, and you don't want to be like that. Anyway, I have a little problem with this one, but this is only why I don't want to take it out of context, because there's got to be another rabbi that says something else. So I guess it's all a balance in everything. You learn what one guy said and he's not wrong. You learn what another guy said and he's not wrong. Okay, and everybody's right, as we said before. But I think you have to balance things in your own mind. What is the right thing to do? What's the proper path to take?
You have to make your own judgment.
Based on?
What you know or what you feel.
Correct. But again, you always want to do what is right. And everybody has a different definition of right.
Sure.
So these are the guys that set up the path, and the path is not straight. You have a choice to go left or right or stay in the middle.
So that's for sure that the path is never straight. We say shivim panim, that there's 70 faces to the Torah, right? So my Torah, Elliot, my Torah includes teaching my children, spending time together, talking, sitting for an hour at the Shabbos table, singing songs. That is my Torah as well. And that's why it's so important that we bring this into the 21st century, because to me, studying Torah is not sitting in the base medrash all day, all night, learning a piece of text. It's, taking my kids to school and in the car singing a song, or, listening to their Torah, to what they learned in class. I mean, right now, Shaya is preparing this Chagigah, and he's practicing his lines and he's practicing his songs. Yahav has Chagigat Sidur on Thursday, so he's practicing Shema and all these things. I mean, that is literally the Torah coming alive, So again, it's about what does Torah mean to you, and that's what it means to me, And so I think when it says the same word specifically, va'asok, work with the Torah, that's the Jewish way, is that we bring to, which is what we've been learning here, is that, the Torah doesn't stop because it's now 9:31 and we're all going to get off this Zoom and then go to our next thing. No,
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Marilyn.
Bye, Marilyn.
Thank you so much. Mazel tov, Shirley.
Thank you.
Mazel tov. But it's bringing the Torah with you into your work, into your family, into your, community, into your life, right? So I think that's why that is using that same word, right? La'asok, which is the actual bracha of the Torah, right? La'asok b'divrei Torah. You have to work with it, not just here, work at it, but also bring it into your work with you.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. And on that note, let us all bring the Torah with us all day into our work.
What do you do
Have
if
a
you
good
retire?
day.
Yeah,
Good
Shavua
day.
Tov, everyone.
Shavua Tov.
Happy Yom
Shavua Tov.
Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
Yom Yerushalayim
Yeah.
today. Yeah.